Welcome to part 8 of a 12-part episode 1 series. Today we're going to be talking about the UNA Lions. This starting five is looking very sexy as well. You got Jakari Lane, who scored 15 points a game last year. Daniel Ortiz. Both of those guards are on the ASUN preseason team. Ortiz, remember, is coming back from UAB. And when he was here, because he did start his collegiate career in North Alabama, he had 15 points per game as well, along with Lane. So going to be some great guard scoring coming from this team. Then you got Will Susi, who's probably going to work his way into the starting lineup this year, is going to be a permanent member rather than being off the bench some games last year. Then you've also got Dallas Howell, who's going to be a returning player that is going to be in the starting lineup again. And then Cornelius Williams, expected to work his way to the starting lineup again. This another guy that came off the bench last year, was a redshirt at LSU previously before coming to UNA. And I went with these five guys, Dad, because the UNA Twitter page released their kind of like their hype video where they had everyone filling the stadium and announcing stuff, and they announced all the team names and stuff like that, and those five were the last guys to be announced. So it seemed like they intentionally announced them as their starting five. But this team's got contributors from all over. Tay Fields won the preseason player of the year, defensive player of the year. I forgot to add a word there. He's coming from the Missouri Western Griffins, who are a D2 team. That is the MIAA conference, is that where they are. He was a honorable mention 2 years ago, and then ended up making the third team last year. He's got the fans' vote to be Defensive Player of the Year. Probably going to be a solid contributor off the bench. And then they got some freshmen that are going to contribute as well, Dad. And before we get into really the big breakdown of what they bring as a player, you mentioned that they have Key and Peele on their team this year. Who are those guys?
You got to look at the team page. It's just obviously a little fun. Israel Jenred, freshman, and Kevin Kovacic. If you take a look at them and think about the Key and Peele episode where they're doing their football names, or just anything they do when they're wearing costume, when I was doing my research, I couldn't help but make a comparison there. So
it was funny.
It was a little spoof on there. A little fun.
It was funny. You found Jen Rett and you sent them to me first, and then when you went back and looked at it and looked at the coach Kovacic, you saw him and you're like, what? Wait a minute, they're both here and they're both on the same team.
You can make okay.
Oh, that's funny.
Sorry, guys. But you can't help but hopefully laugh at it, and again, maybe you could do something fun with those guys at some point. That'd be really cool.
Oh, that would be great.
I think they'd be up for that. So.
Well, talk about what these freshmen bring to the team as well, or the other guys that are going to be doing some stuff.
Right, the whole team. Like you had mentioned, Lane and Ortiz played together for 2 years. Ortiz went to UAB last year, back this year. Ortiz is your shooter. He's just going to rain buckets of threes. Lane's going to set stuff up for him. He had 4 assists per game last year, only 70 turnovers for the year. For as much as he had the ball, nice low number. What a great player in every regard. He's first team ASUN last year. And Sixth Man of the Year 2 years ago. He's a lot of accolades for Jakari Lane. Just keeps getting better and better and better. And what I really like about this squad, and they add in Will Susi, Dallas Howell. Dallas Howell led the team last year in three-pointers in terms of made three-pointers, 54 three-pointers. Averaged 8.5 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game last season. They're all still together. Will Susi, 44% from threes. It's what he shoots, 77.7 from the line. Overall, that's for his career. Last year, 93% free throws made last year. He missed one, if I remember right. I'm talking about Will Susi here still. And he turnover to assist ratio last year was 38-37, so a 1-to-1, great ratio. And he enjoys, if you hear some of his interviews, he enjoys that glue aspect of what he brings to the team. So you got some really good talent guard. He's a glue guy, contribute on points, etc. I look at Cornelius Williams, great leading the starter. I don't know how long it's going to stay or how many minutes. There'd probably be a rotation there in minutes. Certainly, kind of staying already being there. Maybe give him the leg up from what you had said on their video.
My only concern with that is that I do agree about Williams. It seems like, he might not continue to be the I'm sorry, I mentioned he was off the bench last year. He was off the bench at Western Carolina. Last year.
Right. Exactly.
But he seems to be the only guy that's ready. Maybe Israel Jenneret steps in there at some point if he really clicks. 7'1", 260. That's a big boy. That's gonna be hard. Very difficult to guard. But 260's a little heavy for 7'1".
Right.
I want to be around in the 240, 250 range.
Sure. Exactly. I think that Jenred's maybe for year one, at least at the start of the year, more of a defensive presence, right? A good rim protector, obviously, with the height. He's athletic, though. If you watch some of his video, he is pretty athletic. He's a gym rat, too. That's another thing I read about him. He's in the gym a lot. So he's active. And I think he could, I don't see him necessarily needing to necessarily grow out of that weight perspective necessarily to be a contributor. You mentioned Tate Fields. Tate Fields, he albeit at a JUCO school, but he's a well-balanced talent, right? Aside from defensive player of the year.
Yeah, he brings a little bit of everything. 13
points a game, 9.5 rebounds a game, 4 assists per game.
And a steal and block. Yeah, and a steal and block per game.
He can do it all. So I see he could be a really nice little role player, certain game situations to fill in. We didn't even talk about other freshmen. They have a really nice freshman class. Darkon King Walker, Kevin Kovacic. All I think can be contributors for Tony Pujols here as throughout this season. So they got a nice, deep, pretty broad and experienced group, balanced from an experience perspective.
And a two-time state champion in Dante Bacchus. When he was in high school, he was All-American for third team for JUCO last year.
Great. Oh, thank you.
So we got there's a lot of guys. It's going to be a deep rotation. My concern still is, as I mentioned, is big depth. It seems like Cornelius and Jenneret are really the only two that are going to contribute a lot because Mitchell Chaffee and Jamal Alberton I don't see playing much this year. And outside of that, you don't really have any other bigs on your team. So if you only have 2 bigs that can go, that's an area of concern because that means you're playing small at the 4 or average size at the 4 compared to because they have 3, 6, 7 guys on their team that are probably going to rotate at the 4. But then if one of those guys gets hurt, you might be. I mean, I could be looking at Mitchell Chaffee all wrong, and maybe he's going to be great coming from JUCO, but I just don't see it. So that's my concern there. That's why I got him at 5th. Where do you have him ranked?
I have them at 3rd. I actually think they're really gonna step up this year. I just like that cohesiveness of especially their top 4, their starting 4 that we mentioned, and then getting into the depth on the bench. I think has improved over last year. They were from your perspective too, or what you mentioned there as well. They were in the bottom half of the conference in points allowed last year. Example, right there, I think they were 8th. Yeah, they seeded 8th last year. So the guys certainly got to work on improving on the defensive end, shutting things down, and having a good presence inside. Important to that piece of it as well. So, but no, I think there's a good upside here for this club, and excited to see where it plays out.
Yep, we're in the same range as far as top half of the conference.
Right.
Definitely gonna be a good team. I'm not sure if they're gonna be. I mean, Ortiz and Lane are gonna carry this team heavily as far as the point contribution from them two, or the ball handling contribution. Not sure if I see this team winning the ASUN championship, but I definitely see them being competitive throughout the entire season.
Yeah, I think especially early in the year, I could see them maybe even leading the conference and building into the conference schedule early on, being ahead. Can they continue that climb up as everybody else improves throughout the season as well? We'll see that. But I think, again, that experience, what they have together, the cohesiveness, I think they're certainly got a potential to kick it off and then see how far they can carry it from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nice.
That concludes part 8 of the 12-part series. For episode 1, we'll be talking about the UNF Ospreys next, so be sure to check that out. And until then, have a great day.